I know that I promised you guys an Oscar snub video, but I decided that it wasn't really worth recording like 10-minute rant about what I thought, because I can basically sum it up in about 5 words. Are you people ignorant? Question mark. Basically, I every year want to try and figure out what's going to get the most attention at the Oscars, because I want to know what the Academy is claiming to be the best of every particular year. And I know that it is never a surefire thing that a movie is going to get nominated for the Oscars, because that's why we have Oscar snub talk. The movies, the songs, the performances, the direction, the cinematography that we think should be at the Oscars but doesn't get any mention. So I know that that is the reason why, there's plenty of reason why people are debating whether things actually are going to go to the Oscars or not, because they cannot read the Academy's mind. But I wanted to do a certain thing here, which is, how do you know if your movie is going to the Oscars? Because I'm sure there's plenty of Academy fans out there that want to know if there are movies that, if a movie that they're looking forward to or wanting to check out or is going to be at the Oscars. They want to know by the time the movie hits the award show, whether they've used their money wisely or not. Because people love watching the Oscars. It's become basically the entertainment world Super Bowl, and people want to know what is being considered and judged. So I'm going to talk about basically how you kind of sniff out an Oscar film. Now, like any filmmaking, this is a gamble. So I'm not going to say that this is like some Criswell's prediction video of the Oscars or anything like that. There is, though, I think something that you can agree with me on, that the Academy for the last several years is always looking for a specific quality or specific qualities when it comes to the best picture of the year. Now, by that, I'm not saying that you can't have a black comedy or a horror movie or an action movie or anything like that, that they're not always looking for the dramas. They're looking for specific qualities, though, that I think every year gets, but come March or February, always gets in the awards. First of all, I'm going to talk about the casting process. Be honest here. How many times do you see an Oscar-nominated movie in the last several years that gets unknowns shoved into it at the last second, whether in the lead role or a supporting role, or an actor who has had quite a few professional years, had a bit of a break, and then suddenly gets put into this in a supporting role or a main lead role? So it seems to be almost not a very predictably unpredictable casting process, if you know what I mean. You cannot just, by the trailer alone, unless it's The Dark Knight, know that an Oscar-winning performance is going to be in a certain movie. But let's talk about the social adversity. It is so recurring in the Oscars that it's not even funny. The kind of story about a person trying to change society, make the world kind of different and kind of through a different kind of perspective and change the way that things work. They always seem to be at the Oscars. And if they're not nominated for the Best Picture, they get an Academy Award-winning performance. They almost definitely get an Academy Award-winning performance. Let's also talk about, speaking of the performances, this is a very specific type of movie that always seems to be very cast-driven. The family drama. The ones where there's these very simplistic storylines that people seem to swell up and just praise all of a sudden, whereas every other time of the year, they wouldn't even turn their heads if they knew that a trailer like this was coming, because it's just like every other family drama. But they have the same kind of recurring themes in these family dramas. Bad parent, midlife crisis, death in a family, illness. It's often then that's the reason why you've got, with all this kind of subject matter, that you've got such qualities for a performance that's going to get nominated at the Oscars. Because the actors just have so much more to deal with and work with that it's almost impossible to pass up. It's always about like substance abuse, love, secrets, betrayal. They usually have awards piling up on them. If it's not the Oscars, it's the BAFTAs. It's, you know, the Toronto Film Festival. It's the Golden Globes. This is freaking sugar to the Academy. Now let's talk about one that, you know, it's very hit and miss. And this one is the Academy seems to nitpick when it comes to this. The sports drama, it's very interesting. This is the most unpredictable, you know, means of, you know, the Academy's choice of what's candidate material for the Oscars. Because we could have sworn that movies like Invictus or Warrior had some good Oscar material. And I think all they got was 2 things for their performances and maybe cinematography and stuff like that. Maybe Best Original Screenplay. But that's about it. Meanwhile, stuff like The Fighter and The Blind Side, having seen both those movies and not found much in them, I kind of question the Academy's judgment here. And there's always, you know, the political drama. Oh my gosh, this is a gold mine for any actor looking to boost their career. I'm not kidding. You get yourself in a political drama, unless it's like, you know, what was it, George W. or whatever? You know, that movie that Josh Brolin was in where he played Bush. Unless it's something that's kind of box office bomb, then you've got yourself some serious meat to work with. You know, that's the one where, you know, they got this political story that basically drives the premise itself. If it's not about this political life story, then it's about a specific part of the person's life, like take Invictus. There, it's specifically about, you know, Nelson Mandela getting into the office and starting to change his country. This is an off and on again one that gets seldom a win, but very often a nomination, is Crime and Drugs. This is really a fascinating genre to play with, and kind of like the sports genre, has very hit and miss qualities, because it seems to be, like, personally for me, you just get the same stuff over and over and over again with Crime and Drugs. It's about a bad person who's trying to find their own kind of morality in their own world. It's all the same crap year after year. And not far from that is War Stories. And, you know, I can say a little about this, but basically, it's a dead horse beaten. No question. And it's very seldom that somebody breaks the mold. And it's something interesting once in a while, but I think that it is something that they really need to start breaking the mold. Probably the most common theme in the Oscars. And I know this is going to sound stupid because it sounds like I'm pointing out the obvious, but this is almost always the thing that they're looking for, and it's the solid focus. You ready? Underdog rising. It fits in so many genres, I know, but you can tell when it's like tailor fitted for the Academy Awards. It's like this cookie cutter plot that says, I'm trying my best, but obstacles are getting in my way, and I'm about to give up, but I'm going to keep fighting because I'm doing it for the American dream, or the British dream, or the South African dream. Oh my gosh, how much do you want to bet, Moses, that story of the Chilean miners is going to get like an Oscar? It's going to be an Oscar-nominated movie some way down the road. I guarantee you. It's always going to be. I guarantee you, in the next few years, you're going to be coming back to me, and you're going to be saying, Cinema Simpleton told us so! And then you're going to believe me when I tell you about the Tarantula Uprising. Here's the thing that bugs the crap out of me. If you're really looking to confirm your suspicions of whether this movie is going to get nominated for an Oscar, look at the trailer. Look at the background. I swear, the cinematography and the lighting people always have to make their movie set in this dry, deserty backdrop with this consistent afternoon sunlight lighting that it just drives me nuts. How many Oscar movies do you see with that backdrop to the point where you want to bash your head against the camera just to get a different color through the screen?